The champagne flute trembled slightly in Penelope Green's hand as she stood at the edge of the Metropolitan Museum's grand ballroom. Her emerald gown caught the light from crystal chandeliers, making her look like she belonged among the priceless artifacts surrounding the charity gala. Another successful event, Mrs. Green whispered an assistant passing by. Mr. Green's donation has everyone talking. Letha nodded politely, her practiced smile never revealing how hollow such compliments had begun to feel. 3 years into her marriage to Dominic Green, as one of the country's most influential tech investors, and she still felt like an accessory, beautiful, expensive, and ultimately replaceable. She moved between conversation circles with practiced ease until voices from behind a massive floral arrangement caught her attention. "Dominic Green? Please." The female voice dripped with disdain. That man couldn't truly love anyone if he tried. Everything's transactional to him. That poor wife of his is just another acquisition perfect for photographs and fundraisers. "Eleanor, that's harsh," another voice responded. "You don't know? What happens behind closed doors?" "I dated his business partner for a year. Trust me, I know enough." Dominic Green has the emotional range of a calculator. Penelope slipped away before they could notice her, heart hammering against her ribs. The words merely confirmed what she'd begun to suspect. It's that perhaps her marriage was just another carefully constructed element of Dominic's empire. Later that night, as their driver navigated through Manhattan, Dominic barely looked up from his phone. "The event raised 20% more than last year," he stated, fingers never pausing their dance across the screen. "Your suggestion to invite the Haywoods was smart. They brought the Jenners, who brought the media attention." "Is that all that matters to you?" Penelope asked, the question escaping before she could stop it. Dominic finally looked up, his expression puzzled. "What do you mean? Numbers? Connections? Advantages? Is there anything you value that can't be measured?" His brow furrowed. "That's an odd question. Of course there is." "Like what?" "Like you," he answered, but his tone was so matter-of-fact, so devoid of warmth that it felt like further confirmation rather than reassurance. That night, sleepless beside her already slumbering husband, Penelope made her decision. Words were cheap, easily manufactured by a man who negotiated billion-dollar deals daily. She needed to see beyond the practiced responses, beyond the public image they presented. She needed to see who Dominic Green really was when he thought no one, not even his wife, was watching. The plan formed in her mind like a desperate prayer. Dangerous, perhaps unforgivable, but necessary. She would fake a medical emergency, one serious enough to render her unresponsive but conscious. It's a temporary coma, and then she would watch and listen and finally know the truth. Penelope spent 2 weeks meticulously crafting her plan. As the wife of one of Boston's wealthiest men, she'd learned that money could buy almost anything, including medical complicity. Dr. Josephine Winters, a neurologist who owed her career to the Green Foundation's research grants, reluctantly agreed to participate after Penelope explained her desperate need to understand her marriage. "This is ethically questionable at best, Mrs. Green," Dr. Winters had warned, "and psychologically dangerous for you both." 3 days, Penelope promised. "Just enough to see how he reacts when I can't respond." But ethical concerns didn't stop Penelope from deliberately falling down the curved staircase of their Beacon Hill mansion while the housekeeper was present. The tumble was carefully controlled enough to justify the subsequent medical drama without causing serious injury. Hours later, as she lay in a private room at Massachusetts General Hospital, monitors beeping steadily around her, Dr. Winters had administered mild sedatives that would make her appear unresponsive while allowing her to remain conscious. The room had been prepared with hidden recording devices. Penelope wanted documentation of whatever happened. The wait for Dominic felt eternal. When he finally arrived, Penelope had to fight to maintain her steady breathing. Through barely parted eyelids, she watched her husband enter with their family lawyer, Theodore Hammond. "The doctors say it's a severe concussion with potential brain swelling," Theodore explained. "They've induced a light coma to reduce the pressure. They'll know more in 24 to 48 hours. Dominic approached the bed slowly. His tailored suit was uncharacteristically rumpled, his normally perfect hair disheveled. He stared at her silently. "Should I cancel your meetings for the rest of the week?" Theodore asked, already typing on his tablet. Cancel everything, Dominic replied, his voice hollow. Everything. The Tokyo merger can't. I said everything, Theodore. Dominic's tone left no room for discussion. Get Dr. Reynolds from Johns Hopkins here by morning, and find whoever the best neurologist in the country is. Get them here too. Of course, Theodore replied, his expression betraying surprise at Dominic's vehemence. When the lawyer left, Dominic pulled a chair beside Penelope's bed. He reached for her hand, then hesitated, as if afraid his touch might somehow harm her. Were you even doing on those stairs? He whispered. You know they're dangerous? I've been saying we should renovate them for months. Guilt twisted in Penelope's stomach. She hadn't expected to feel remorse so quickly. For the next several hours, Dominic sat mostly in silence, occasionally answering calls but refusing to leave. As evening approached, nurses suggested he go home to rest. I'm staying, he said firmly. One nurse tried again. Mr. Green, there's nothing you can do here tonight. We'll call immediately if I said I'm staying, he repeated, quieter, but with unmistakable intensity. My wife is unconscious in this bed. Where else would I be? As night fell, Penelope listened to Dominic speaking quietly on his phone, ranging for specialists, demanding second opinions, authorizing whatever resources might help. Price is not a factor, he repeated to someone. Just get them here now. The room finally grew quiet. Penelope felt Dominic's hand tentatively close around hers. Come back to me, Penny, he whispered, using the nickname he hadn't spoken in years. Please. By the third day of her charade, Penelope's guilt had become a physical weight. The steady stream of world-renowned specialists Dominic had flown in only intensified her shame, yet something kept her from ending the deception. Now the transformation she was witnessing in her husband. Gone was the impeccably dressed businessman. Dominic now wore the same rumpled Oxford shirt for the second day, his usual clean-shaven jaw darkened with stubble. He'd barely left her side, except when forced to step out during examinations. Mr. Green, you really should go home and shower, urged Nurse Beatrice, a grandmotherly woman who seemed immune to Dominic's wealth and status. Your wife wouldn't want you neglecting yourself. You don't know what my wife would want? Dominic replied without malice. Neither did I, apparently. That afternoon, Penelope listened as Dominic took a call from his chief financial officer. The board is getting nervous about your absence, the man said, his voice tinny through the speakerphone. Let them get nervous, Dominic replied. The quarterly projections can wait. It's not just the projections. It's the Nakamura deal. Thomas, Dominic interrupted. My wife is lying here because I was too busy building a company to notice she was. Unhappy. Unhappy enough to be distracted on a staircase she's climbed 1,000 times. Every deal, every acquisition, every dollar in our accounts means nothing if she doesn't wake up. The silence that followed felt weighted with surprise. I'll handle the board, Thomas finally said. Take care of Penelope. After nightfall, when the hospital quieted, Dominic pulled his chair closer to her bed. Penelope maintained her steady breathing as he took her hand between both of his. I brought something, he said softly. Remember our trip to Maine, before the company went public? You found that little bookstore and bought all those poetry collections? Penelope heard pages turning. Then Dominic's voice, usually so confident in boardrooms, tentatively began reading Elizabeth Barrett Browning. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways, he read, stumbling slightly over the unfamiliar rhythm. Love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach. ... single quotes. He continued through the sonnet, his voice growing steadier. When he finished, he closed the book. You highlighted this one, he said. I never asked why. There's so much I never asked. He leaned forward, his forehead resting against their clasped hands. Wake up, Penny, he whispered. Stay up so I can. Finally learn how to be the husband you deserve. Penelope fought back tears beneath her closed eyelids. This vulnerable man bore little resemblance to the calculated businessman she'd married. She'd expected to confirm her fears. Instead, she was discovering a truth far more complicated. On the fourth day, Penelope's planned awakening should have already occurred. But the arrival of an unexpected visitor changed everything. Your father is here, Dr. Winters whispered when checking Penelope's vitals. Dominic refused to leave. The room, should I let him in? came Dominic's voice from the doorway. He has every right to see her. Yes. Heavy footsteps approached the bed. Penelope felt a rough hand briefly touch her forehead. "You look terrible, son," said a gravelly voice Penelope recognized as belonging to Vincent Green. "Dominic's estranged father. Thanks for the update," Dominic replied flatly. "When's the last time you slept in a bed?" "Doesn't matter." Silence stretched between them until Vincent sighed heavily. "This isn't your fault, you know, isn't it?" Dominic's voice held a bitter edge. "She was unhappy. I knew it, somewhere inside, but I kept thinking I could fix it by being more successful, by securing our future, by being everything you weren't. Dominic, you taught me that lesson well, didn't you? Money matters more than feelings. Business comes before family. Mother may have left you, but at least you had your precious company." "And look what good it did me," Vincent replied quietly. "A fortune I can't spend and a son who despises me." Penelope heard movement, then Vincent's voice closer to the door. "Oh, don't make my mistake, son. When she wakes up, man, she will wake up, tell her everything you're feeling. Don't wait until it's too late." After Vincent left, the room remained silent, except for the steady beeping of monitors. Penelope felt Dominic's hand return to hers. "He's right about one thing," Dominic whispered. "I never told you how terrified I am of failing you. However, business success was just another fortress I was building around us. How beneath all this confidence is a man who wakes up every morning amazed that you chose me." He brought her hand to his lips. "I love you, Penelope. Not the perfect wife everyone sees at galas. Not the elegant hostess or the charitable foundation. Director, just you," Missy Morning breathed. "Singing Ofki you. The woman who calls me on my nonsense and makes me want to be better." Tears slipped from beneath Penelope's closed eyelids, unable to maintain the charade any longer. "Penny," Dominic's voice sharpened. "Nurse, she's crying."
"Yes."
Medical staff rushed in. Penelope knew her deception had reached its inevitable end. The private hospital room felt smaller than it had when Penelope was pretending to be comatose. Now fully recovered after a miraculous awakening, she sat propped against pillows, watching Dominic pace the small space like a caged animal. "Let me understand this," he said, voice dangerously quiet. "You weren't in a coma. You weren't even injured. You put us both through this. This theatrical production because you overheard gossip at a party?" When he put it that way, her actions seemed not just misguided, but cruel. "I needed to know if you truly loved me," she whispered. "Everything between us had become so ... performative. The perfect couple at perfect events with perfect smiles. I couldn't tell what was real anymore." Dominic stopped pacing and stared at her. "So you decided to pretend to be unconscious? Do you have any idea what you've put me through?" "I do," she answered. "I was here the whole time, remember? I heard everything." His face paled. "Everything, everything," she confirmed. "The poetry, the conversations with your father, your calls to cancel the Tokyo merger." Dominic sank into the chair beside her bed, looking suddenly exhausted. "I never meant to hurt you," Penelope continued. "I just needed to see who you were when you thought I couldn't see you back, when there was nothing to be gained from pretending." "Pretending?" He looked genuinely confused. "What exactly do you think I've been pretending?" "To love me," she whispered. "To want more from our marriage than a convenient partnership." Dominic stared at her for a long moment before running his hands through his already disheveled hair.
Ow.
"Did we get here?" he asked quietly. "How did we reach a point where you'd rather fake a medical emergency than simply ask me how I feel?" The question hung between them, painfully accurate. "Because I was afraid of the answer," Penelope admitted. "And because you've built walls so high, I wasn't sure you even knew how to let me in anymore." Dominic nodded slowly. "My father's legacy. The emotionally stunted businessman who loses everyone who matters." "It doesn't have to be your legacy," she said. "No." He reached for her hand hesitantly, as if unsure he still had the right. "But this deception? Penny, how do we move forward from this?" Penelope entwined her fingers with his, by being honest, by being real with each other, even when it's uncomfortable. "I was wrong to test you this way. We were both wrong too. Let our marriage become a performance. Dominic was quiet for a moment. When the doctors told me, you might never wake up, I realized I'd spent our entire marriage preparing for the future instead of living in our present, building security instead of building connection. And I've been so focused on appearing perfect that I never told you when I was hurting, Penelope admitted. He moved from the chair to sit beside her on the bed. Let's start over, right now. No more perfect couple, no more silent fears. It's just us, messy and real. Life like that, she whispered. I love you, Penelope Green, Dominic said, his voice rough with emotion. Not for how you look on my arm at events or how you manage our social calendar. Just you. And I'm sorry I ever made you doubt that. As Dominic pulled her into his arms, Penelope realized that her desperate test had revealed not just the truth about her husband's love, but about the walls they'd both built. Charade was over and with it. The performance their marriage had become, in its place, was something far more valuable, the chance to build something authentic together.